ॐ श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। Priya, so we will chant, all of us will chant from 66. नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य
नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य
न चायुक्तस्य भावना
न चायुक्तस्य भावना
न चाभावयतः शान्तिः
न चाभावयतः शान्तिः
अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्
अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्
इन्द्रियाणां हि चरताम्
इन्द्रियाणां हि चरताम्
यन्मनोनुविधीयते
यन्मनोनुविधीयते
तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञाम्
तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञाम्
वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि
वायुर्नावमिवाम्भसि
तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो
तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो
निगृहीतानि सर्वशः
निगृहीतानि सर्वशः
इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः
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 तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता
या निशा सर्वभूतानां
या निशा सर्वभूतानां
तस्यां जागर्ति संयमे
तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी
यस्यां जाग्रति भूतानि
यस्यां जागृति भूतानि
सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः
सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः.
Yeah. So in the last class, last 2 or even 3 classes, we were looking at this shloka number 69. Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam, where Sri Krishna was telling Arjuna that a person who does not have the vision cannot appreciate a person who has the vision. That is the message of this shloka. Just like a blind person cannot appreciate what it means to have eyesight, like that it is. So we saw the importance of knowledge, and then we said towards the end that because of the vision is completely different, because the two people do not see eye to eye on things. Okay? Here I can use the word eye to eye, I suppose. Definitely do not see eye to eye. One sees multiplicity, the other person sees no multiplicity as a reality. Okay. And one looks at this world as a threat to be resisted. The other person, filling up the world, knowing the world to be not separate from oneself, is not threatened by anything. The body will come and go. That person knows that very well. The body has threats, that is there. But body is I, but I am not the body. Body is I. The world is I, but I am not the body. I am more than the world. I sustain the world. I am more than the world. When we say, what we mean is, the world will come and go. Our Shastram talks about pralaya. So the world as we know it will not exist after some time. That also it talks about. But then what about me? Am I decimated when the world goes? No. I am not decimated because I cannot be decimated. I am consciousness, which always is. Nothing can destroy consciousness because there is no other thing. Okay. So with that, we also therefore said the wise person sees things differently. Therefore, you cannot emulate the actions of a wise person. Because we also said the person really being an akarta, a non-doer, karma does not apply to that person. Very profound concepts these are. And so with actions, the person really does not act. That's the idea. Even though a lot of actions are done, even though dharma is there, even though the person does not look any different from anybody else, may not even talk any different from anybody else, still the vision is very different. And so do not emulate the actions of a wise person, emulate the values of a wise person. So this we saw in the last class. And we essentially concluded. And so let's translate this shloka. We've not done that. Yeah. So, ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti samyami. That is the first sentence. And we said that that first sentence applies to the vision of non-duality, the vision of the wise person. Okay. So he says, sarva bhutanam ya nisha bhavati. Sarva bhutanam means for all people, beings. Ya nisha bhavati, that which is night. So the way to translate that would be, in that which is night for all beings, comma, in that which is night for all beings, the one who is wise, sanyami, who has mastery over oneself, sanyami, is awake. The one who is wise and the one who has mastery over oneself is awake. So that word sanyami, it's an important word. We said that. Yami means one who is in control of oneself. Yami, who has mastery over one's sense pursuits, sense organs, and the mind. We saw that. Samyami, that prefix sam, applies to that person also has the knowledge of Brahma, knowledge of Atma. Okay. So everybody has some level of mastery over oneself. It's possible with Ashtanga Yoga. It's possible to gain complete mastery over oneself. But is that knowledge there or not? That vision of Advaita is there or not? So that Ekatva Bhavaha, is it there or not? That is the question. That is why even the acharyas of the great leaders of yoga ashrams, like our Svyasa, big institute, important institution in this world, even their founders, Nagendra ji and others, attended Swamiji's talks, Swamiji's camps, correct? So why? Because that knowledge is there. And that knowledge has to be understood. Otherwise, yoga will become an end in itself. Keep that in mind. End in itself. Hey, the end is me. Nothing else can be the end. Anything I do, anything I practice is only a means for an end. So, therefore, that's samyami. Keep that in mind. Okay. So, in that means what? In that vision of non-duality, which is night for all beings, which means which is not available, which all people do not see. The one who is wise and the one who has mastery over oneself is awake to. Awake or awake to? Okay, that completes the first sentence of the shloka. The second part is the second sentence. Yasyam jagrati bhutani. Now he is talking about that in which the beings are awake to. Means the world of multiplicity, the world of non-duality, which I think is real. Therefore, awake to. The Ajnani, the one who does not know that Paramarthika Satyam we talked about last time, thinks of this Vyavaharika Satyam, means this transactional world, this world that is multifaceted, multicolored, and huge and vast and expanding, that Vyavaharika Satyam is taken as Paramarthika Satyam. Is taken as absolutely real, correct? So, that world, that duality, yasyam, means in that in which beings are awake. Yasyam jagrati bhutani. Again here bhutani means people. Yasyam jagrati bhutani, comma, is night for the wise person who sees. Is night for the wise person who sees. Is night. Sa nisha. Kasya nisha? For whom is it night? Pashyataha munehe. Pashyataha munehe. Munihi here refers to the wise person. And what kind of wise person? Pashyataha. The one who sees. One who sees things as they are. One who sees that paramarthika satyam, that absolute independent reality. Okay. So independent and dependent reality, I think you know by now. Mithya, dependent reality. Satyam, independent reality. Pot, dependent reality. Clay, independent reality. Okay. I see a raised hand. So yeah, Maheshji, you have raised your hand.
Can you please repeat this one more time, the translation? Thank
you. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So now I'll repeat the translation of the entire shloka. In that which is night for all beings or all people, comma, in that which is night for all beings, comma, the one who is wise, comma, who has mastery over oneself, the one who is wise, comma, who has mastery over oneself, comma, is awake, full stop, is awake, jagati, tasyam sanyami jagati. Sanyami is the noun there of this sentence, subject. Okay. That in which beings are awake, that in which beings are awake, comma, is night for the wise person who sees. Is night for the wise person who sees. Okay. So we spent a good bit of time on the shloka. An important shloka, but a shloka that might have put Arjuna in despair. Because he asked Arjuna, tell me about the Sthita Prajna. And Krishna, after explaining, says, you really cannot know a Sthita Prajna. Right? So it could be disappointing. Arjuna could have become disappointed. And so Pujya Swamiji says, perhaps out of sympathy and compassion, Krishna mentioned this next shloka with another illustration which Arjuna may have found better, easier to handle. Okay, so let us chant that. Yeah, Venkatraman, Balaji. So go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah. Apuryamanam Achala Pratishtham Samudramapah Pravishanti Yadvat Tadvat Kamayam pravishanti sarve
प्रविशन्ति सर्वे
sa shantimapnoti
स शान्तिमाप्नोति
na kamakami
न कामकामी
आपूर्यमाणमचल प्रतिष्ठम्
आपूर्यमाणम् अचलप्रतिष्ठम्
समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्
समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत्
तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे
तत्त्वत्कामायं प्रतिशन्ति सर्वे
स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी
शान्तमाप्नोति न कामकामी.
Yeah. So some of you may have discovered that this shloka is slightly longer than the shlokas we have chanted. So the chandas has changed. So this is Trishtup Chandaha. It has 44 syllables as opposed to the other shlokas we have studied, which is it has 32 syllables. Okay. So here he is giving another illustration to demonstrate a wise person. Okay. So last word in the first line, yadvat. Yadvat. So that gives us a clue. The word yadvat means yatha. Yatha means just as. Just as. So that gives us a clue that Krishna is giving us a comparison, a simile, an example, perhaps an illustration. And the word corresponding to Edvat has to be Tadvat, the first word in the second line. Tadvat. Tadvat means Tatha, so also. Just as dot 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 dot, so also dot 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 dot. Okay. So let's see what that is. So let's first split this first line. Apuryamanam is the first word. Apuryamanam. Then achala pratishtham is the second word. Achala pratishtham. Third word, samudram. Samudram. Fourth word, apaha. Apaha. So those two words appear together. So they must be split. Samudram, apaha, and then pravishanti yadvat. That's good. So we'll come to the second line later. So we can split it. Okay. Tadvat, first word. Second word, kamaha. We are doing the second line here. Kamaha. Then yam pravishanti sarve saha. That's sa. Where it says sa, it's correctly written, but it is saha. Originally the word is saha. Saha means he, she. Okay. Shantim. Next word. Shantim. And then apnoti. Na kama kami. So what I normally do in these kinds of situations is I'll put a mark underneath wherever the word splits, something like a comma. You can do it various ways, but I just do it that way, so I know exactly where the word ends. Okay. So that illustration, yadvat samudram. Samudram is the main word there. Samudram, ocean, sagaraha, samudram. And so he is comparing the wise person to an ocean. Samudram. And what kind of samudram? What kind of ocean? Apuryamanam achala pratishta. Two adjectives are given to this word ocean. Apuryamanam, which refers to a ocean, that which is completely full, it's full. That is, it is filled completely. That is the meaning of apuryamanam. And the second adjective is achala pratishtham. Achala pratishta. It's something that doesn't move. Chala means moving. Achala means unmoving. So achala pratishtham. It stays put. It doesn't move. Period. That is the meaning of that. Achala pratishtham. It's fully grounded. There is no motion. When you think of motion, you do not think of the ocean. That is the meaning. Okay. Okay. So that we know, the ocean is always where it is. It never moves, and it's always full. That much is clear. In comparison to what? Well, you look at any small patch of water, a pond, even a lake. Lake is more full than a pond. But if you look at a pond, it depends entirely on rains to fill it up. Depends entirely. And it depends. Too much sun, no rains, it can dry up. Correct? So that's the state of the pond. Any water body, a small water body. And it depends on rains, rain clouds, all these things the pond depends on. But the ocean does not depend on rains. The ocean does not depend on the clouds. The ocean does not depend on even the rivers that flow into it. Okay. The ocean is unchanged despite all these things, despite rivers flowing in, despite evaporation of water. The sun is shining and water is evaporating, but still the ocean is full. It never complains that I'm flooded. It never complains that I'm overflowing. Stop. Doesn't complain. My salinity is getting diluted. It's not good. The fish and shark will die. Please. No. Doesn't have any reason to complain. It doesn't appeal to any of these world organizations, World Trade Organization, United Nations, World Bank, all these big names we hear. And so World River Bank, it doesn't have to appeal. It doesn't have to appeal to the United Nations International Rivers Emergency Fund, UNIREF. Don't Google UNIREF, it doesn't exist. I just created it, okay? So it doesn't have to apply to UNIREF. But this world needs UNICEF. You know why? The world needs UNICEF because these people have created World Bank, IMF, WTO, and all these organizations in the name of helping all these other countries, and in the process make every country indebted to World Bank and IMF. You just look at the history of IMF and World Bank, you will know. And then what? People have become poorer and poorer and poorer. And so you need UNICEF, you need United Nations, you need all these other organizations to help those same people. This fantastic scheme they have developed. This is mind-boggling. Previously, they used to occupy countries and colonize and dominate. Now it's all remote control. TV, these days, who goes to the TV and presses the TV? Tell me, to turn on the TV and then get up and press the TV to turn it off. No, nobody does that. It's all remote. Everything is remote. Like that, this scheme has been pakka. They have mastered this scheme. Anyway, this may be a shock to some of you, but do some research. I need to tell you all these things. So like that, but the ocean is not like that. Ocean doesn't have to apply. Even though organizations are there, the ocean doesn't raise its hand. I am in trouble. No. So that kind of ocean which needs no help from anybody because it's always full. Fullness is the nature of the samudram, of the ocean. Okay? No fear of getting flooded, no fear of drying up, nothing. No such thing happens to this ocean. But what about these ponds? Marshes. Very sad. Their existence depends on rains, depends on springs, that maybe the spring created a pond from underneath, we don't know. Periodic inputs of water is there, and ponds are survive based on that. And but then no guarantee. One season it doesn't rain and a pond can just vanish. And rain is one reason, or lack of rain could be one reason. But then you go to Chennai, all marshlands are gone. We people don't know what a marsh is. We've forgotten. Because the Chennai airport is sitting on a marshland. We just cover it up willy-nilly and then gone. It's all concrete wherever you go. So poor marsh, it survives. It needs rain. It needs so many things. It needs people also to protect it. Our people can destroy it. So that is the fate of the ponds and marshes. Too much water, flooded. Too much water also destroys the marsh, flooded. So you look at many places, marshlands and all that. And Louisiana state in America, that southeast portion, right? And southeast. So a lot of marshes, marshlands and so forth. And constantly it's supposed to protect the state, protect the land. But due to various reasons, that protection it is not able to give. A lot of oil pipelines, okay, so many things happening there, and so marshes are destroyed in the process, gradually or otherwise. So this is the state of the pond compared to the ocean. Ocean is always full. That is the example given here. So tadvat, yadvat, just as that ocean is achala pratishtam, unmoving, stable, fully grounded, and it is apuryamanam, it is full, it's complete, it doesn't need anything, neither can anybody take away anything from that ocean. You cannot empty the ocean. Despite all the desalination plants that are out there, they cannot empty the ocean. Correct? So that kind of apuryamanam samudram, just as that yadvat, tadvat, tadvat. So also, what about the wise person? So wise person is what in this sloka? So sa shanti, the sa means he. Okay, he. That's all. Krishna uses the word he for that wise person, or she. That is okay. And referring to that pashyataha munihi, referred to in the earlier shloka. The one who sees, the wise person who sees, right? That's what we said. So that person is referred to as just he, a pronoun in this shloka. And these things that are entering the ocean, the river waters, and any kinds of waters, any effluents, doesn't matter, man-made sources, it doesn't affect the ocean. And so for the wise person, what can enter the wise person? Well, it's all the things in the world, all the kamas. Look at that. He uses the word here. Tadvat kamaha. That word is kamaha. Okay. Kamaha can mean several things depending on how it is, how the etymology of kama works. Here, kamaha refers to objects, not desires. Desires also are kamaha, but here refers to objects of desire. Objects of senses, our sense, means entire world. That is the meaning. Kamaha. So those, Krishna is saying, those kamas, those objects enter this person, enter all of us. They're all there. Even before we consume the gulab jamun, the gulab jamun is already consumed. Because why am I salivating? It's because it's already there inside. Without that being there inside, you cannot salivate, correct? So, consumed. So those kamas, those objects enter this wise person, anybody as it were, but then that wise person is unaffected. That person is unaffected by those kamas, those objects. Why unaffected? Because that person is complete. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha. We saw all that. You cannot separate the fullness from that person. Not possible. How it is? Like what? Like what? Like you cannot separate the heat from the fire. You try as much as you want. So far we have not heard, at least I have not heard any research, some lab somewhere, they're doing research. They want to separate the heat from the fire. I have not heard something like that. So I will assume that nobody is working on that. And so you cannot separate. Like another example we have, Kalidasa, when he writes the first prayer shloka he writes. Kalidasa is the greatest poet of India. And after Valmiki, you have Kalidasa. And long before all the Shakespeare's and other people, Kalidasa. Kalidasa, in our culture, when somebody writes, they first write a prayer. They compose a prayer before composing whatever they want to write. Okay. Shankaracharya writes a commentary on this Bhagavad Gita, and he doesn't simply start with Krishna's words. He offers a shloka. Narayanah paro vyaktat andamavyakta sambhavam andasyantastvime lokaha saptadvipacha medini. This is how he writes. He writes this prayer to Narayana. And he says, Narayana, you are the cause of this world and you also pervade this world. And Saptadvipacha Medini, Medini, this earth and all the continents that we know and the entire cosmos, you are the one that's manifesting. And unto you, my namaskar. Like that he writes. So Kalidasa writes a prayer. Look at his prayer, okay? You all know this. Vagartha viva sampruktav. Correct? Vagartha viva sampruktav. Vagartha pratipattaye. Jagatah pitaro vande Parvati Parameshwaro. He says, it's a prayer to Shiva and Parvati. And you know how he describes them? He says, I worship Shiva and Parvati. They are inseparable. Shiva and Parvati are inseparable. Like what? Like Vagartha viva. Vak means speech, word. Vak means word. And artha. Artha means meaning, not purushartha. Artha here means meaning. Like you cannot separate a word from its meaning. Can you believe the way they think? You cannot separate a word from its meaning. And of course, word to which you know the meaning. You can't say, no, I thought of Timbuktu. I don't know the meaning of Timbuktu. You can't give that example because you don't know what Timbuktu is. You may not know. Because Timbuktu is a place in Mali, in the country called Mali, correct? African country. But somehow they use the word Timbuktu to say something that is unknown. Okay. So, if you take all words that you know the meanings of, and then you cannot separate the two. You cannot think of a word without thinking of its meaning. Okay. So, like that, this fullness of the wise person cannot be separated from the wise person because that is the person's nature which he or she has come to know. Correct? And therefore, kamaha yam pravishanti. See the word there. Sarve kamaha. Okay, look at that. I hope you're able to identify those words. Sarve kamaha. Kamaha is the second word, and sarve is the fifth word. Sarve kamaha. All objects, which means the entire world. Sarve kamaha yam pravishanti. Pravishanti means enter. Enter. This person, yam, the one who enters that person. So that is how we translate that part. And so that how do you think of this objects entering the wise person? Means, of course, the body is there, and then there are senses, and the objects are there. Perception takes place, and so that is being symbolized by this statement that objects enter the person. Very commonly stated in our Shastram, they will say the person consumes objects. Like that they will use sometimes. So here objects enter the person, and then the person is unchanged. Achala pratishtham, like the samudram, unchanged, unmoved. That's an amazing statement to say, that no object in this world can affect this person. We already saw one shloka, what was that? Number 56. We saw that. Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. Correct? One who is unaffected by sources of sorrow. And sukheshu vigata spruhaha. The one who is unaffected or doesn't get attracted to sources of joy, is unaffected, in other words, by either of them. Same thing here also. Apuryamanam. Because that person is full, nothing can affect that person, just as no drop of water, no river can affect the ocean. That's the way to look at this. And achala. So achala, the word achala is used for a mountain, because a mountain also is unmoving, right? Achala, Himachala, they say. So achala is Arunachala. So like that we have mountains that are called achalas because they are unmoving. Chala means moving, achala means unmoving. And we encountered this word a couple of times already. Okay. So where did we see it? Achedyoyam, number 24 or something. If you look up 24, Achedyoyam adahyoyam akledyo ashosyacha nitya sarvagatasthanohu achaloyam sanatana. You already saw achala there. So Krishna is using that same word here also. Achala, unmoving, unchanging. Okay. And then we also saw it in number 53. Shruti vit pratipannate. Shruti vit pratipannate. Yada sthasyati nischala samadha vachala buddhihi tada yogama vapsyasi. So there also we saw the word nischala, etc. Achala buddhihi. A mind that is unaffected by anything out there. It can't be affected because there is no second thing out there once the vision is there. Correct? So therefore, so you have, sometimes you have this, that is why we have this, unless, okay, the person has the vision, person is full, and therefore all desires are given up, as it were. All desires are given up. But then you have to give up desires in order to appreciate the vision also. Okay. To some extent, we have to do that. That's why That's why all this Vita Raga Bhaya Krodaha, that is why this Karma Yoga, all this is so important. Because you must be a driver in order to drive. Sort of a driver in order to drive. Otherwise, you can't learn to drive at all. And so you must more or less be a driver, and then you learn to drive. And then every time you learn to drive, you become a better driver, and you keep repeating the process until you don't need a person sitting next to you. Correct? For a car anyway. Okay. So, tadvat kamaha yam pravishanti. So also, just as the ocean, these objects which enter the wise person, as it were, and the person may respond with laughter, the person may respond with sadness. Okay, because that emotion is there, the mind is there, the mind cannot but express emotions, and a person may really laugh at the whole thing. And like the ocean also, ocean has all these waves. The waves are maybe, the ocean is smiling because there are all the waves, we can say that. And huge breaker waves are coming, and so the ocean is laughing, it's roaring with laughter. Why not, we can say that. So like that, this wise person also will express all these emotions. And so we can take that example also. And when that laughter is gone, when those smiles are gone from the face, when the laughter and roaring laughter is gone from the ocean, does the ocean not exist? Is the ocean not full? No, the ocean very much exists. Its nature is complete, fullness. So also, this wise person, whether the person is laughing, smiling, getting angry, can a wise person get angry? We don't know. We need to. It's possible. Means there is all these knee-jerk reactions can be there, and so that anger won't last long. So regardless of all those emotions, the person continues to be full, complete, unaffected by all those external stimuli. Okay. What about the other person? Wise person is compared to whom here? That person is kamakami. Kamakami. That wise person is referred to by the word saha in the shloka, right? Saha. The word right in between, in the second line, saha. That person gains shanti, he says. Shantim apnoti. Apnoti means gains shantim, shantihi. We encountered that earlier also. In that shloka, dhyayate vishayan pumsaha, etc. We saw that. So, gains complete peace, complete tranquility. That person, saha shantim apnoti. He, she, that wise person gains tranquility. Na kama kami. Not the one, but not the one who is a kama kami. Kama kami. One who has desires. One who has binding desires. Binding desires. We saw this also before. Non-binding and binding desires. Without a desire, nothing can happen. Even a wise person wants to teach. That desire to teach also is a desire, no doubt. So desires are always there. The question is whether the desire is binding or not. What happens when the desire is not fulfilled? That's what decides whether the person has that vision or not. Okay. So no more elation and depression for that person. Whereas for that person means for the wise person. What about the kama kami? Yeah, kama kami is a yo-yo. I think this word kama appears 2 times in this word, kama kami. So yo-yo. Yo-yo. And so going back to the verse number 56, dukkeshu anudvigna manaha. That is a wise person. In the presence of sorrow, sorrowful, sorrow-causing situations, this person is unshaken. And what about this Kamakami? Dukkeshu dvignamana. Correct? Dukkeshu dvignamana, not anudvignamana. I'm sorry. Dukkeshu udvignamana. Udvignamana. One who is affected by sorrow, deeply affected by these sorrowful events, situations. And Sukeshu vigata sprihaha. Vigata sprihaha is a wise person. So this person should be Sukeshu sprihaha. Sprihaha, one who has that love for all these great experiences and is dependent on such experiences. Okay, that person. So that person is a Kamakami, one who has binding desires. And so this example, Swamiji says this example could have given Arjuna some hope, because he was able to appreciate this ocean example better. And yeah, now I know what you mean by a wise person. Like that he may have thought. And so those two are being, that wise person is being illustrated with another example in this shloka number 70. Let us translate that. So the verb in that first sentence is pravishanti, enters. And so let's translate this now. Just as yadvat, the last word in the sentence, yadvat, just as water, apaha, water flows into the ocean, apaha samudram pravishanti. That is the main sentence. Water enters the ocean. Just as water flows into the ocean, that is brimful, apuryamanam, that is full, brimful, and still unmoving, achala pratishtham. Correct? Just as water flows into the ocean, that is brimful and still, kama, kami, we say, now we are saying kama again. That kama and this kama are different. So I may not pronounce it properly, but kama, I think you understand that. So too, kama, tadvat, so too, tadvat, first word in the second line. The wise person, so here that the word saha is translated as the wise person. Yam also wise person. The wise person into whom all objects enter, kamaha pravishanti, sarve kamaha pravishanti. All objects enter, literal translation. Gains peace, shantim apnoti, gains peace. So too the wise person into whom all objects enter gains peace, kama, whereas we can put in brackets. There's no literal word here that says whereas. The desirer of objects, kamakami, the desirer of objects does not gain peace, or tranquility. So if we were to translate the whole shloka, it looks like this. Just as water flows into the ocean, that is brimful and still, just as water flows into the ocean that is brimful and still, comma, so too, comma, the wise person into whom all objects enter, the wise person into whom all objects enter, gains peace, comma, you can say within brackets, remains unchanged. Gains peace remains unchanged. That's why achala pratishtam. Whereas, comma, the desirer of objects, which means you must think the one who has binding desires for objects, for things. That is the idea. The desirer of objects does not gain peace. The desirer of objects does not gain peace. Good. So, we are getting pretty close here to the end of the second chapter, an important chapter. And so Krishna will be concluding with a couple of more shlokas here, 71 and 72, which we can resume in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.